Emblem Tales is an open-world action MMORPG game that is currently in development. Back then, honestly, Emblem Tales was going to be something special, because we haven't really seen any type of development like this for a Roblox game before, and specifically for the RPG market of games. They were showing off multiple combat classes for the game, and in general, a look into the environment and immersive world that we were going to be taking a part of, which just consisted of stuff like a bee sneak or just a peek into the towns and villages for the game. The hype for this game during this time was actually extremely huge, and multiple people, including myself and other YouTubers, were looking forward to it, and we actually had the opportunity to test the game. And surprisingly, it is still some of the only footage to this day that you'll actually be able to find on the game. Following after that, what happened to Emblem Tales? And I feel like this is a good time to say that I'm not going to be making this video to spread any hate towards developers or try to issue like some type of sneak out of them or some type of information. All I'm going to be doing with this video is just documenting what happened to the game after the initial release date expectation and the testing that we were allowed to do for the game. Most of my information is going to be coming from words from developers themselves inside the Discord server, or just using knowledge to kind of piece things together. Besides that, after this testing period, it seems like development for the game was actually going steady. But then multiple delays had started appearing from developers, and this was due to them not meeting the dates that were promised for things specifically regarding the release date, which was actually going to be February 18, 2022. And just for like a brief look on this specific release date that they actually teased, us testers were actually playing the game, and the footage that you're seeing inside the background right now was actually us testing to kind of make things ready for that same release date. We were honestly just playing the game to try and find out bugs and stuff, and mainly testing out the combat, because there was a combat mode inside the game, and I'm pretty sure that there still is one. But when we were testing this, honestly, it was a really good experience, and I enjoyed the combat back then, so I can't even imagine what developers are going to be doing now. But pretty much we were just testing for that, and one weird thing about it that I can actually note now is we didn't really test anything else besides the combat. We were put inside like a base plate where we had to kind of queue up against different teams, and then we would actually just play on like one world and just fight against other players. We didn't actually fight like any mobs or anything, so we literally don't know anything else about like actually fighting NPCs for this game. Coming back though, the developers actually did fail to kind of meet this initial release date, and they did provide an explanation for it. Now I can't find the original description for it, but later on I will actually be piecing together kind of why I think they released that message. But then after this raised questions from the general player base. And it was just general questions of people asking when is the game going to be releasing due to the date of February 18th being missed. And to expand on what I was saying before about developers making that announcement, where I personally think that developers were explaining on why they had to delay the game is because they were actually working in a very unhealthy environment. And pretty much they would either just be working on this game constantly and wouldn't have time to actually live their life outside of doing their work. And they also just didn't want to release something that was rushed and unfinished compared to what they knew they could release if they actually spend more time to actually work on the game, which is currently the Emblem Tales that we're going to be getting now. And after this announcement, this is where most people, including myself, genuinely did forget about Emblem Tales. And you can't really blame us, because this was due to there not being anything really to look at or just have any idea on what's going on in the game, besides like minor announcements from developers. However, if you actually look back and track the messages of the owner, which is Shiftbox, following this delayed announcement, who was actually doing semi-weekly podcasts where he would speak about the game, and he even has some official Twitch streams on the Emblem Tales Twitch channel where he would play games and just talk in general about Emblem Tales and the developing process that was going on there. And you can even see right here this screenshot where Shiftbox was actually saying, yes, the game is still being worked on. We're making sure everything is prepared before we start back with announcements, sneaks, pods, and such, and great progress is being made. For the people who ask and think nothing's happening. So probably the people that are watching this video. And in general, he was just notifying the player base that basically information and sneaks on the game would just start back up after great progress has been made for the game. Now, following this, we actually did a long jump in time, and they actually posted this announcement in the server where they were basically stating, it's been very quiet since we announced that we'll be working without announcing a release date. So I'm just commenting here to reiterate on that for those who have forgotten. Steady progress is being made on the game. We've just shied away from posting about it through official channels while working at our own slower and healthier pace. Thank you for the continued support to those that are still here. And Shiftbox actually added onto this himself, and he said that they're basically remaking the whole entire game from the ground up and not just finishing the old version of it that you've actually seen in videos posted by them and some of YouTubers like myself. He also said that the game has improved in every aspect imaginable, so that will include grinding, the textures for this game, the graphics, the PvP, everything has improved for the game, and that they're purposely choosing to not show sneaks so that they don't fall into what they've done before. And I feel like I could break this down a little bit more for you. Pretty much, they kind of don't want to just be like a Discord game, if you understand what that term means, or just a game that's going to post these really beautiful sneaks, but you can't actually play it, or there's like no real footage for the game. He just didn't want to put the whole entire dev team and himself back into that area where they would have to like constantly show sneaks for like public approval, just so that people didn't think that they've abandoned the game, and in turn they choose to just work at their own rate and start releasing and building up hype for this game essentially when they're ready, which is probably a really good thing. It's like giving you a false promise that I'm going to give you an apple tomorrow, and then it just keeps on stacking up and stacking up and stacking up until I have to end up giving you 50 apples, and you don't get any apples from me because this is an online video that you should like and subscribe, please. Yeah, that's why I did that whole entire runoff sentence.
Embarrassing!
Following this announcement though, 4 months later, we actually ended up getting a roadmap for the game, and this is currently what Emblem Tales is following right now since this was announced in 2023. So, Shiftbox himself said to give a clear representation of what our plans are so there's no misjudging our intentions for when we release the game and what we're doing. This is a roadmap that is basically our countdown to release. So, the roadmap starts off with this Patreon soft launch, and pretty much it's him launching the Patreon. Next, we are moving on to Patreon hard launch and public trailer 1, and this one describes it as this is the start of our public hype phase, where we release a trailer showing how far we've come since the delay and the old variant of the game. During this, we'll ping everybody for the hard launch of the Patreon, where a lot more in-depth parts of our redempts are shown and systems we haven't shown. So, just in case you're wondering where we would fall at in this whole entire place, it would actually kind of be the Patreon soft launch, and I'll be expanding more on that a little bit later. Next to the roadmap, he did say that we would be releasing a full public showcase, and this is when sneaks, showcase sets will be presented leading up to the testing and release date. This is also where they'll go public with their in-depth revamp changes and new features that they'd like to share. It would also include more podcast streams and Q&As during this whole entire phase. After that would be the testing phase, which is pretty self-explanatory, where they'll be doing open testing for around 1 week, and then they would end up releasing the game, which would be the final part of the roadmap. So if you're wondering where we pretty much fall on this whole entire roadmap, it's kind of at the Patreon soft launch leading up to the Patreon hard launch. Now, me personally, I actually don't have access to the Patreon, but if you look at the Patreon, it was actually updated recently, as close as I'm pretty sure 5 days ago when I'm recording this video. And pretty much, this is just confirming that the game is also being actively worked on. On the Patreon, they're kind of showcasing new combat sneaks fighting in an arena setting, and it's also a little bit hard to see due to the Patreon being blurred, but there's also a new GUI for the game since the old one. If you really do want to see these for yourself, feel free to go and buy the game or buy the Patreon for this game, because all of the funding for this game is actually going to be supporting it itself. So if you really do want to see the sneaks for yourself, feel free to go and buy that. But just to fully go over what has happened to Emblem Tales, it's simply that the game is being worked on in silence. And they'll actually start to showcase sneaks and combat to us at their own rate, or basically whenever they're ready to do that. And just to explain off this, I feel like this is a really good thing to do, especially if you look at the market that their game is going to fall into, which is going to be RPG games. When you search up on Roblox RPG games, the first thing that you're presented with is going to be a game called ReZero. Now, I actually did end up playing this game, and it's kind of like Sword Art Online, but it is literally just you going from one patch of grass to the other patch of grass and fighting different mobs until you eventually get to the boss. Now, I'm sure you've seen the footage for this game. It's not the most appealing, it seems like it's more for kids, but the player count for this game is consisting of like around 1,000 to 3,000. Just the whole entire RPG market in general on Roblox is just very, very bad. And by bad, I mean that there's not much players, and I understand why, because there isn't really any good RPG games. Now, some people probably say that Emblem Tales will probably follow the same format of this game, but it'll just be more polished and have a better representation of this game. And when I say same format, like you go from mob to mob, boss to boss. And I disagree with that statement, don't even ask me why. But some of the other games that you can also play when searching up for the RPG category aren't even really worth talking about. And I feel like just this cover alone could tell you what you're going to be getting into. And I'm sure that you're seeing what I'm seeing. Titan Subtus. Yeah, hopefully the development for Emblem Tales is going smooth, and I honestly can't wait to see the future of the game and how it is now following all the changes. Plus, if you want more videos like this where I'm covering what happened to games or just reviews in general, comment what you want and I'll pretty much try my best to make it. I'm trying something new with this, so if you really did enjoy the video, feel free to like it because it directly lets me know that you like it, hence why it's called a like button. And thanks for watching. Subscribe. Yeah. Smile. Yeah.